For weeks, a stray German shepherd sat outside a farmer's cabin, staring without fail, silent, unblinking, waiting. Then one cold morning, it vanished. The farmer followed the tracks into the woods, and what he found hidden beneath the snow would change both his life and the dog's forever. The cabin stood alone in the wide, snow-covered valley, its chimney puffing a thin trail of smoke into the gray morning sky. Inside, the farmer stirred his coffee, staring out the frosted window at the endless white beyond. His days rarely changed. Chores, meals, silence, and sleep. Life had grown quiet since his children moved away and his wife passed years earlier. The land was faithful but lonely, offering no company except the distant howl of wolves or the caw of crows. He often spoke to no one for days at a time. But that winter morning, as he stepped onto his porch with steaming mug in hand, something unusual caught his eye. Across the clearing, half buried in snow, sat a German shepherd. Still, silent, and staring directly at him. Its gaze was steady, unblinking, like it had been waiting for him all along. The next morning, when the farmer pushed open his cabin door, the sight startled him. The same German shepherd sat in the snow, in the very same spot, staring with the same unblinking eyes that it didn't bark. It didn't growl. It simply sat there, chest rising and falling slowly, like a sentinel refusing to move. Days passed, and each morning brought the same scene. No matter the wind or falling snow, the dog remained faithful to its place, eyes fixed on the cabin as if waiting for something. The farmer tried to ignore it at first, brushing it off as coincidence. Strays came and went around the valley. But deep down, he felt uneasy. This wasn't chance. Every time he looked out his window, the shepherd was there, watching, waiting, silent. And the longer it stayed, the more the farmer's curiosity grew into something he couldn't ignore. By the end of the first week, the farmer could no longer dismiss the dog's presence. Every morning when he stepped outside, there it was, sitting in the snow like a statue, eyes fixed on him with quiet determination. But he began to notice something troubling. The shepherd looked thinner each day. Its ribs showed faintly beneath its thick coat, and its breath came in short clouds of exhaustion. It didn't move closer, didn't attempt to raid the chicken coop or sniff at the barn. It just sat, watching. One morning, when the wind howled bitterly through the valley, the farmer spotted the dog trembling, its body shivering against the cold. Something inside him stirred. He carried a small bowl of leftovers from his kitchen and set it near the porch. Then he stepped back inside, peering through the frosted window. Minutes passed. At first, the shepherd didn't budge, but eventually, it limped forward, sniffed the food, and devoured it hungrily before retreating to its spot in the snow. The farmer leaned against the doorframe, troubled. This was no ordinary stray wandering for scraps. Something deeper drove the dog to return every single day, and he was determined to find out what. The farmer began leaving food out each morning, sometimes a slice of bread, sometimes scraps from his stew. At first, the shepherd approached only after he'd gone back inside, eating quickly before returning to its spot in the snow. But over time, the distance between them began to shrink. One morning, when he stepped onto the porch, the dog didn't retreat. It remained seated, eyes locked on him, waiting patiently as if it had learned to trust his presence. The farmer spoke, softly, his voice rough from disuse. "You're a stubborn one, aren't you?" Day by day, his words grew longer. He started talking about the weather, his chores, even the loneliness that gnawed at him when the nights grew long. The shepherd never answered, but somehow, its silent gaze felt like listening. By the second week, the dog edged closer to the porch, settling near the steps instead of the clearing. The farmer caught himself smiling, surprised by the comfort it brought. They never touched, never crossed the fragile line between man and beast. But slowly, quietly, a bond was forming in the frozen silence. And for the first time in years, the farmer didn't feel quite so alone. Then, one morning, the clearing was empty. The farmer opened his door, half expecting to see the shepherd waiting by the porch steps, but the snow stretched untouched, silent and bare. He waited all day, glancing through the window every few minutes, but the dog never appeared. That night, for the first time in weeks, the valley felt unbearably quiet. The next morning brought the same emptiness. No paw prints in the snow, no shadow by the trees, no steady eyes watching the cabin. The farmer tried to shrug it off. Strays come and go, he told himself. But deep down, unease gnawed at him. By the third day, worry replaced denial. The thought of that dog, thin, limping, braving the brutal winter alone, haunted him. He bundled into his thick coat, strapped on his boots, and stepped into the snow that he followed the faintest trail of paw prints leading into the woods. Each step was heavier than the last, the icy wind cutting across his face. Branches creaked under the weight of snow, and the silence pressed against his ears. Somewhere deep in the forest, the shepherd was waiting or suffering. The farmer's heart pounded with every step as he searched for the truth. The paw prints wove deeper into the forest, nearly buried under fresh snow. The farmer's breath puffed in clouds as he pushed forward, his boots crunching with each step. Then, just ahead, a faint sound cut through the stillness. A whimpered. He hurried, heart racing. And there it was. The German shepherd lay curled beneath a fallen tree, its body trembling, its injured legs stretched awkwardly in the snow. The dog's eyes lifted weakly toward him, but there was no anger, no growl, only exhaustion. But then the farmer noticed something else behind the shepherd. Tucked beneath its body were three tiny pups. Their fur was thin, their eyes barely open, their small bodies pressed against their mother's side for warmth. The farmer froze, realization striking him like a blow. The dog hadn't been watching his cabin for food or shelter. It had been pleading for help, waiting for someone to notice. The farmer knelt slowly, whispering softly. The shepherd didn't resist as he reached forward. It only lowered its head, trusting him with the secret it had guarded so fiercely. In that moment, the farmer knew. This wasn't just a stray. This was a mother fighting to keep her family alive. The farmer's throat tightened as he looked at the fragile scene. One wounded mother and three helpless pups shivering in the snow. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his heavy coat, wrapping it gently around the litter. The shepherd watched every movement, tense but silent, her trust shining. Through tired eyes, carefully, he lifted the pups into his arms and then coaxed the mother to her feet. She stumbled, whined in pain, but took a step forward. He supported her weight as they made the long trek back toward the cabin, snow crunching beneath them with every labored step. By the time they reached the porch, his breath was ragged, his body aching, but his heart felt lighter than it had in years. He laid the pups by the fireplace, guided the shepherd beside them, and for the first time, his lonely cabin was filled with life again. In the days that followed, the cabin no longer echoed with silence. The shepherd healed slowly by the fire, her pups growing stronger with each passing dawn. The farmer found himself smiling again, his once empty home now alive with warmth, noise, and companionship. Looking at the dog who had once stared at him from the snow, he realized the truth. She hadn't been searching for food. She had been searching for trust. Sometimes, the ones who wait silently at our doorstep aren't asking for charity. They're offering us a chance to heal together.